Hey guys, so today we're going to be outlining the events that take place during stage 1 of photosynthesis and then compare this process to the oxidative phosphorylation that occurs in mitochondria. Stage 1 is the part of photosynthesis that most resembles the oxidative phosphorylation process. So just a refresher of photosynthesis, it's a series of light-driven reactions that are used to create organic molecules in organisms such as plants, algae, and cyanobacteria. Electrons from split water molecules and energy from the sun drive the reactions that occur during photosynthesis. In addition, the splitting of water molecules creates a large amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, which supports oxidative phosphorylation. Focusing more on stage 1, we see a series of photosynthetic electron transfer reactions. Light energy from the sun is captured by the chloroplasts and stored in chlorophyll molecules, hence why this stage is often called the light reaction stage. Here, water molecules are also split. We then focus on the thylakoid membrane gradient and see how the electron transport chain uses energy from the sun, which was stored in the chlorophyll molecules, as well as the electrons from split water molecules to pump protons from the stroma through the thylakoid membrane and into the thylakoid space, creating a high proton concentration. This high proton concentration then causes protons to move back through the gradient due to a protein called ATP synthase, which then allows the proton to combine with ADP to form ATP. This ATP then goes through stage 2 photosynthesis to eventually create glucose molecules this cell can use. NADPH is also produced due to the electrons ultimately being donated to NADP+, thus creating NADPH.
Okay, so next we're going to move into oxidative phosphorylation. So this occurs in the mitochondria shown here. It consists of the outer membrane shown in black, the inner membrane shown in gray. This is the inner membrane space, and this is the matrix. So then these two equations right here are actually showing what's happening chemically in this process, and then this diagram is showing it a little bit more in depth. So this is of the inner membrane, which is the phospholipid bilayer. So in the inner membrane, there are these protein complexes that go across the membrane, and this is called the electron transport chain. So when NADH comes in, it is oxidized and releases its electrons and protons and leaves us NAD+ to be used in other parts of cellular respiration. Then the electrons travel through the electron acceptors in the transport chain and go from a higher energy state to a lower energy state. As it moves down, it releases energy, which is used to pump hydrogen protons from the matrix into the inner membrane space. So as the protons build up in the inner membrane space, it becomes stored energy. So the next process that occurs is referred to as chemosynthesis. So now there are a lot of protons in the inner membrane space and not as many in the matrix, so they naturally want to move from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. In order to do this, the enzyme ATP synthase, shown down here, actually allows them to flow through into the matrix. So as they float through, they actually turn this axial structure and they make it spin. So here on the left, this is ADP and a phosphate group. So as the protons move through and turn this axial, it's actually lodging together the ADP and the phosphate group, which creates ATP. So once ATP is created, it releases from the active site and it's used for other processes.
So just to go over some of the similarities we've covered, stage 1 of photosynthesis and oxidative phosphorylation both include an electron transport chain system that creates a proton gradient. ATP synthase is also a protein that is used in both types of reactions that helps move protons from a high to low concentration, resulting in the creation of ATP. These reactions also occur in the organelle membranes of either mitochondria or thylakoid membranes in chloroplasts. There are also many differences, first being that photosynthesis occurs in chloroplasts, where oxidative phosphorylation occurs in mitochondria. Photosynthesis also derives its energy from the sun, whereas oxidative phosphorylation derives energy from food molecules, or oxidized sugars. Photosynthesis reactions occur in the stroma, thylakoid membrane, and in the thylakoid space, whereas oxidative phosphorylation occurs in the inner mitochondrial membrane, mitochondrial matrix, and inner membrane space. High energy electrons donated to the photosynthetic electron transport chain come from chlorophyll molecules, and high energy electrons also wind up being donated to NADP+ in photosynthesis, which ultimately forms NADPH. In oxidative phosphorylation, these high energy electrons are donated to O2 instead of NADP.